Welcome to Muted in Medicine, the podcast where we break the silence on the untold stories and pressing issues within the healthcare profession. Join us as we dive deep into topics that often linger in the shadows of medical corridors and are not discussed in conferences, meetings, social gatherings, and in the hallways. They are often hiding. From navigating errors and facing litigation to the often overlooked realm of mental health among healthcare professionals. Through candid conversations and storytelling, we aim to amplify the voices and shed light on challenges that resonate across the medical landscape. So grab your stethoscope and a cup of coffee and tune in as we uncover the layers of complexity in the world of healthcare that are so muted, yet so profoundly impactful.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Muted in Medicine, the podcast where we break the silence on untold stories in healthcare. My name is Saba Fatima, and I'm your host for this podcast. I'm a pediatrician with a passion for helping healthcare professionals facing secondary trauma at work and healthcare, which often they are unprepared to face. Today, we are tackling a conversation that many of us have tiptoed around for too long. What it truly takes for women to lead in medicine. Women now make up over half of U.S. medical students and nearly half of all faculty members, and yet only 27% of medical school deans, 25% of department chairs, and fewer than 20% of C-suite healthcare executives are women. This gap isn't just a reflection of numbers, it's a reflection of deeply embedded cultural and structural barriers. Despite making up more than half of the healthcare workforce, women still face unique and often invisible barriers when it comes to leadership roles. From being expected to lead with both strength and softness, to navigating double standards, imposter syndrome, and institutional inertia, the journey is far from straightforward. Joining me today is Dr. Gwendolyn Williams, a respected leader and physician who's not only broken through those barriers, but continues to challenge the system that keeps others out. Dr. Williams is a first-generation American of Indo-Caribbean heritage whose lived experience has fueled a lifelong commitment to health equity, belonging, and inclusive leadership in medicine. A hospital medicine physician and associate professor of medicine at Virginia Commonwealth University Health, she has built her career advocating for historically marginalized voices, particularly women in medicine. During her 9-year tenure at Sentara Health, she made history as the first female president of the Medical Executive Committee at Sentara Careplex Hospital and led the impactful Celebrating Women in Medicine campaign. She also championed the implementation of paid parental leave for physicians, addressing systemic barriers faced by women in healthcare. Dr. Williams' advocacy has extended beyond institutional policy to national recognition. She was instrumental in leading physician wellness initiatives during the COVID-19 pandemic, focusing on vaccine equity, access, and combating misinformation in underserved communities. Her leadership has earned her the 2023 Society of Hospital Medicine Unsung Hero Award, the 2024 Virginia Center for Inclusive Communities Humanitarian Award, and recognition as one of Hunter College's top 40 under 40. Dr. Williams continues to shape a more equitable healthcare landscape, one where inclusion, dignity, and compassion are foundational for all who give and receive care. Dr. Williams, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Dr. Fatima, for having me. What an introduction. I was sitting there. I was like, ooh, I want to meet this person.
Yeah. Me too.
First, thank you so much. Such gratitude to you for having this podcast. I've been listening to your podcast from the beginning.
Yeah.
And what a space you have created. Even the image behind you. And Muted in Medicine resonated so deeply with my soul when it first came out, because so many of us feel like that.
Right.
And there's never been a space or a platform to talk about it. And if anyone, if this is your first time listening, I recommend you go back and listen to all the other discussions. You did one on like organizational grief. Oh my goodness.
Yeah,
I have smiled during your podcast. I have cried during your podcast. Because it's real, and you create a platform where people can bring the truth without judgment, and have that space. So thank you, and thank you for having me. But thank you for what you're doing, because it's quite courageous.
That means a lot to me, and I think it shows what a kind person you are yourself. But we ask everybody when we start, what's bringing you joy in medicine today?
Today, I think it's changed actually over the past year.
Yeah.
Over the past year, I left my job that I was at for 9.5 years, and it was just time. I was growing, and I just felt that I couldn't do anything more in that organization.
Yeah.
We'll come back to the why in a moment, because it will feed into our conversation. However, I went and did locums work in Wyoming. And for those of you who don't know, locums work is, most of your physicians are in healthcare, but it's independent contracting work in a critical access hospital in the middle of nowhere.
Sure.
And it was what I needed. And the time off and away from corporate healthcare was what I needed. And I got to take care of people and make decisions and not be micromanaged. And people were so kind to me. They were so grateful. It was hard being away from my daughter. I have a 3.5-year-old. It was hard being away from her, but traveling out there and taking care of hardworking people. And now I've landed at VCU, Virginia Commonwealth University, and I never thought I'd be in an academic center ever again. Since residency. Residency was an experience. That's a whole nother podcast. From where our traumas start in medical school and continue there and get worse. That's a whole nother podcast. But I came to VCU, and I'm working with really great people, and it's a nice culture, and the patient population is challenging because of the acuity, how sick they are. But I think what's bringing me the most joy is having inner peace with myself about the decisions that I've made. Because I made them for me. I made them for my family, seeing my family thrive, seeing my daughter happy, and not wondering if I'm happy, So I think it's all interconnected, and doing work like this actually brings me the most joy, advocating for not only our fellow physicians, but all healthcare workers, and bringing the concept of equity to the forefront of the conversation, bringing well-being to the forefront, not just talking about engagement. All these engagement surveys, what do they do? No, let's not measure engagement. Let's measure burnout. Let's measure fulfillment. That actually brings me a lot of joy. It's very challenging to be in that space, but we have to do the work, because if we're not doing the work, it's going to stop. And you say more than 55% of women make up medical school, students entering medical school. If we don't do something now, then they're going to be facing the same barriers that we're facing. And that's not fair. That's not what generation should do. We should always make it better for the next one and the next one and the next one.
Yeah, no, you're doing some great work. Thank you for doing that. Tell me about your journey. Were you always a leader? Did you know you were always going to be a leader? Some people are born leaders, right?
I think the humility in me will say no. The ego in me will say yes.
Okay.
And it comes from my parents. It comes from my parents. I grew up in New York City. Everyone knows I'm a New Yorker, and I grew up in New York City, and I grew up in a very rough neighborhood. Lots of violence, gunshots down the street, drugs on the corner, things like that. And I don't think that's ever left me. The idea that life can be like that. And it keeps me very humble. My parents are immigrants to this country, and they came here, and I saw them experience significant adversity. But they were always very, very gracious and very kind, and always helping people. And my mom would always, the six of us, my mom would always tell us when we went to school, you're a leader, not a follower. if somebody would jump off the Brooklyn Bridge, would you jump off the Brooklyn Bridge? She'd always say this. And we always think, why would someone jump off the Brooklyn Bridge? I don't even know what the Brooklyn Bridge is when I'm like 10 years old. I'm just like, between Brooklyn and Manhattan, I'm not sure. I'm just learning the boroughs right now. And she would always tell us that all the time.
Yeah.
And she would always say, don't let anyone bully you.
Yeah.
I mean, and you don't think about those things, when you're younger, you're just like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
And then you get older and it's really a part of you.
Yeah.
So whenever we saw something happening on the playground or somebody getting bullied, I would always say something with the caveat that one of my sisters was always near me and they would, they'll wreck somebody. Maybe I'm not throwing the punches, but they're going to do it for me. But we were all like that. All of us kids were like that. Like we never like to see someone being hurt, being bullied, being minimized because our parents didn't raise us that way. And my mom would always say, if you get in trouble at school, but you did it for the right reason, you're not going to be in trouble with me. Okay. And then I found out last year, my dad would always tell us these stories about like revolution in his country. He's from Grenada.
Okay.
And there was a little revolution in the 1970s.
Yeah.
And he'd always tell us these stories about, whatever, his involvement. And we never believed him to that capacity.
Yeah.
I found out last year when Grenada celebrated 50 years of independence from the crown.
Yeah.
Can you imagine that? The nation is only 50 years free of colonialism.
Right.
I found out my dad was a major player in a movement of freedom for the country. He used to run messages through the bus drivers. He used to hide Maurice Bishop around the country. Like I was blown away when people were telling me this. I'm like, but this is not written down anywhere.
Yeah.
They're like, no, it's not, and his mom shipped him to America when it started getting violent.
Yeah.
And he wasn't in Grenada when it all came to an end, which is a good thing because if he was, he would have been executed with the entire parliament, and I've always seen my dad has always been a leader. He will not call himself that.
Yeah.
But people follow him. People listen to him. He doesn't have to yell or scream, but he always talked about family and unity of the people. And he said, whatever you do, you have to care about the people you serve, the people, not the people you work for, the people you're serving. And that's always stayed with me. And I believe that has a big part in how I choose to lead, because that's where the compassion comes. That's where the humility comes. That's where understanding that everyone has a lived experience that should be respected. And it may sound corny, but it comes from my family, it comes from my parents. And I don't know if you know any other first generation kids, but we learned to live in multiple worlds at the same time. We lived in our parents' world, old school, whatever was going on. Yeah. And then like when you left the house, you had to learn how to survive on the streets, going to school, imagine a 9-year-old, a 10-year-old, 2 little girls taking the city bus, 2 city buses in New York City to go to school, transferring and everything without a parent, so we had to learn how to, exist in American mainstream culture to know, whatever is cool at the time we're not allowed to listen to at home or what shows are on. And then do well in school. Yeah. So,
That's awesome. I think my daughter's going to be one, but it's a lot of nature and nurture, what you're talking about, and you being a leader today. Do you think your gender over time, when you've been in leadership positions, it kind of perceived how others perceived your leadership potential? Do you ever think that came into play?
Yes. I never thought being a woman would ever be a real barrier for me because throughout my upbringing and all the way through college, I always saw women in positions of leadership. President Emeritus Jennifer Rabb of Hunter College. She's always going to be my president. Yeah. When I was in college, and this is a powerful woman in New York City. Yeah. I used to watch men tremble. Yeah. And she's like not even 5 feet tall. Yeah. And she just had a way of speaking. And I always thought, my gosh, like, wow, she's so amazing. And when I graduated from college, the president, vice president, provost of my college were all women.
Right. Okay.
It was not a uncommon thing for me to see women doing great things, women throughout the Caribbean. You hear the stories of, independence and revolution that women led and not men, that women orchestrated, because we had to learn the history of like our parents' countries, in addition to American history. And I'm glad that we did in world history and all that stuff. But yeah, I think the first time I realized it was when I was in medical school. And I realized, I was just myself. I was talking. I went extremely as myself because I'm like, oh, we're all going to be doctors and we're all going to, take care of people. I went to University of Pittsburgh, which was a city that was very black and white. They've done so much work in the past, like 5-6 years, about talking about racism and healing. I'm really proud of that city. But when I went there, I realized that a lot of my colleagues, particularly my colleagues of color, didn't like when I was just showing up as myself.
Oh.
It made them uncomfortable. Somehow, like me being all of me, all of the brown girl me, all of the Caribbean me, all of the New York me was highlighting that, they weren't part of the majority. And I remember, and it's such a small thing, but I remember that, one of my friends, he was talking and he was being loud and he was cursing. And then, we were just talking. We weren't like in conversation or anything. We were like on a break. And I started like matching him. And it just kind of going on a back and forth exchange. And afterwards, a few, not one, a few colleagues came up to me, people of color, women and men. Were like, well, you can't act like that. And I'm like, what? I was like, I don't understand. What did I do wrong? They're like, oh, you're a bit much. You need to tone it down.
Okay.
And and as I went straight from college to medical school. So, I'm 21 years old. At that time, 21. I was 21 when I went to school. And the one instance doesn't sit with you, but as it kept happening, I'm like, I just don't understand, like, why is it different for me? And so people started telling me, oh, because, you're a woman of color, you're more darker skinned. People are going to think you're black. You have to act a certain way. And I'm like, but why can't I just act like me? What is wrong with me? And you ask yourself that. Thank God I have a mom and I have 4 other sisters who are like, don't listen to those fools. Like what are they talking about? And because when you have a permission from like your mom to be who you are, you really approach the world as who you are, because if my mom says it's okay, it's probably okay. And if you have a problem with it, you can go talk to her and she can whoop your ass. But it was medical school. Then in residency, it was a lot of what I was wearing. I actually got called into a meeting with 3 chief residents and the program director after a night shift in the MICU to have a discussion about my clothing.
Okay.
Yeah, to have a discussion about my breasts.
God.
It was so demeaning. It was actually heartbreaking. You don't know what to do in those situations. I would know what to tell somebody to do now. Everybody would be written up. It would be a whole thing. EEO would be involved. Like you have to know, but you don't know because you're in such a lower position and the power dynamic is so strong that you just feel like, okay, well, what would you like me to do? Because me and someone who's also a woman but who's white wore the same thing, but I'm the only one getting in trouble for it. And I learned later over the years, there's when people are as you continue to ascend in your career, especially as women, men will be seen for what their potential is, right? Like they're, oh, that guy, oh yeah, he speaks up, he's strong, he's assertive, he's decisive, in a good way, whereas women, before your mouth opens, you are judged. And before your mouth opens, you already have to prove your worth. And it happens to people of color across the board. But when you're a woman and a woman of color, there's a tax that you have to pay each and every single time. And it's not fair. It isn't fair. You can be seen as, and I'm sure you've experienced this too. People who are listening have experienced it. And I want us to take a moment to say it and name it.
Yeah.
Because these are real experiences that need to be validated.
Right.
And to be said that they're not right. They're wrong. You know, you speak up, you're difficult, right? Yeah, you're difficult. Why are you being difficult for having an opinion that's different than yours?
Yeah.
To me, if you're a leader and somebody is, I love when people challenge me as a leader. You want to know why? Because that's going to make me better.
Yeah.
If somebody is challenging or somebody's saying, you know, I really don't understand, why can't we do it this way? Then that's innovation. That's creativity.
Right.
We should be celebrating that. We should be encouraging that.
Right.
But it's easier to shut people down. It's easier to label them as, oh, you're difficult, or the classic when you have something to say, or if you're calling somebody out, what do they say? You're a bitch, right? Because that is such a phrase that you can say in any language, in any country, and it instantly demeans you. It instantly makes people say, oh, you're not in the same circle as us. You're real there. You're under the table. Okay. You can't even be near the table. It's such a horrid thing to say about a colleague, about somebody that you're working with. We're all working together. We're all taking care of patients. We all want to do the best that we can do.
Yeah.
But when we melt it down, right, and we take out what's actually there, it's unconscious and conscious bias. It's both. And it's not always ignorance. Sometimes, there are people who don't realize how they're acting. But a lot of times there are people who know exactly how they're acting.
Right.
And it's not only men. That needs to be very stressed. It's not only men. It's the people around you. And I think when you get to our level, you know, we're attendings. I've been attending for over like a decade now. My God. You know, I've been attending for such a long time. And I would notice that, in retrospect, obviously, when I'm doing it, and I don't care. I'm not going to apologize. You know, I'm getting the work done. I'm kind, I'm compassionate, but I will be firm. And I don't really get to, if you think negatively of me when I know I haven't done anything wrong. If I do something wrong, I'll apologize and I'll own it. That's accountability. But I can only be accountable to myself. I can only be accountable to myself. I can't hold other people accountable. I have to hold them to a standard. Because that standard has to be met by everybody. And when I'm sitting at the head of the table as president of the MEC, like you said, first woman to be president, you know, that was an exceptionally challenging experience for the 2 years that I was.
Did you feel like you had to kind of tone yourself down a little bit to be more likable, or were you in a room full of men, or how was that dynamic?
So when I was chief of medicine, we had a retreat. Okay, so this is 5 years before I became president. I was 33 and I was chief of medicine, and we went to a retreat. And it was a board retreat, you know, like team building, all this stuff. It was very exciting. We did it at Fort Monroe at like the old governor's like mansion. And there was these two women moderating the retreat. Different things, topics, and you know, how we communicate. And there were cards on the table, and you got to pick a card and just talk about something related to that card as it relates to the board. So there are all kinds of all kinds of images, you know. So there was a card with a woman standing on a car, probably circa 1920s, right? A suffragette holding a sign. And it was like an old, like faded photo. They did it purposely like that. And I grabbed that card and I said, well, I want to bring this up because this is these women were fighting for the right to vote, for the right to exist. And let's be real, women has been fighting for the right to exist in society since the beginning of time, beyond existing to be the makers of the next generation, you know, beyond, you know, serving, you know, our partners and our spouses. Women have been fighting to be seen, heard, and valued. But this card, I picked up and I said, all right, I had to think about how am I going to do this? How am I going to bring to light something I'm seeing? You know, so I looked at the women, they saw me pick up the card, you know, and you know, sometimes women can like communicate without saying anything. So they knew where I was going. So they were ready. And I said, I want to bring this up because, in this picture, this woman is fighting for her right to vote. I said, as it stands right now, I'm the only female voting member of the medical executive committee. and so I'm sitting around a table full of men, all men who I liked. I respected them. They can be very brass, and I didn't, I didn't mind that. And they're like, what are you talking about? There are always lots of women in the room during meetings, right? This is when we were still doing a lot of in-person meetings. I said, well, let's dissect that together. I said, okay, who is in the room? What other physicians are in the room?
Yeah.
Okay. We talked about, and okay, these women are in the room, but they're in administrative secretarial roles, or they're in nursing roles. I said, what other female member in the room other than me has a right to vote?
Yeah. Interesting.
And it was, it was a moment I was extremely proud of because they were receptive because of the environment we were in. We were in an environment where we were learning how to be a better board. And I remember, someone in the room was like, he was the president at the time. He was like, oh my God.
Yeah.
You're right. Gwen, are you the only one? I was like, yes, I'm the only one. I am the only one.
Yeah.
So when I became president of the medical executive committee, I actually, in my 2-year term before I left, I brought equity to the board.
Yeah.
We had I think about 40%, let's say, of women.
Yeah.
We had more people of color than we've ever had serving in both, voting and non-voting. Our non-voting are physician members at large. We represented, by the time I finished, 9 languages in 10 countries. Like, all of that was extremely important to me.
Nice.
But there were so many barriers during my tenure.
Yeah.
As a woman.
Yeah.
Sitting there. And I had watched a documentary. It's actually Pam Anderson's documentary. It was really good. If you haven't watched it, it was really it touched my heart. I didn't know she had gone through so much trauma in her life, and so much shame and guilt that people thrust upon her. But she said something that stuck with me, and she said, "People will hate you when you try to become something they don't think you should be."
Yeah.
So in medicine,
it's
okay if you come here. It's great. We want you there.
Yeah.
But the moment you're like, oh, I'm ready to level up.
Yeah.
I'm going to go here. And people don't believe that you should be there. They're going to find a reason to find something wrong with you. They're going to find something. I hate to say the word hate, but it's hate you. And you've done nothing to them except follow your ambition. To try to, because that's what we should all be doing. We should never just, okay, someone's here. But if somebody's showing great potential and they're excited and they're interested and they want to participate, why aren't we all just trying to help each other level up? Can you imagine if the whole world just helped each other level up?
Why do you think
every point?
Yeah, there is that bias against women, though. I'm just curious because is it because of the fact, some bias because, having a family at home, does that bring in a bias? Do you think they can manage the work-life balance? Because sometimes I've heard in terms of promotion and, recruitment and in competitive fields like surgery and others, these biases do come up against women. But why do you think that exists?
It exists because medicine was created without women in mind.
Okay.
Yeah. Like, think about when medicine, the field of medicine was created. We weren't invited. We weren't a part of that. And I'm thinking of as physicians, okay?
Yeah.
And so if you create a system without something in mind, and then that thing you didn't have in mind now enters your system, but you've made no adjustments for that thing to exist in your system.
Yeah.
What is going to happen?
Right.
It's like having this beautiful garden, okay? And you're like, oh, I'm not a gardener. So I'm going to try to do this well. you're okay. You have your garden. Okay.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, I'm going to plant my cucumbers and I'm going to, plant this. But then somebody throws like tomato seeds and mint in there, and mint is a weed and it's just going to go everywhere.
Yeah.
So you got that going, but then your tomatoes are just trying to grow. They're just trying to, they're the women just trying to do their thing and be part of the garden. And you have all the other, vines just saying, no, there's not enough room for you. I think I know that there's something so structural and cultural about the field of medicine. Our male colleagues are held to a different standard due to societal accepted norms. Okay.
Yeah.
So yes, there's a motherhood tax.
Yeah.
I mean, there is a parental tax, but the motherhood tax is very, very high.
Yeah.
When I was in residency, one of our junior colleagues was pregnant. She was married. She got pregnant.
Yeah.
And she told me when we were, I'm always in the ICU. Everything happens when I'm in the ICU.
Yeah.
She told me when we were in the ICU. And I was so genuinely happy for her. And she's like, yeah, like, don't tell anybody. I'm like, of course I won't tell. She goes, no. I don't want people to be mad at me.
Yeah.
And I looked at her and I'm like, why would people be mad at you? Like, it did not click in my brain why people would be upset.
Yes.
And then I saw the reaction from people who were leader. She's going to be off and we're going to have to figure out how to fill her shifts. It was such a crude and, as I said to my daughter, unkind way to respond to another human being.
Yeah.
But imagine that's all you see.
Yeah.
So men and women will treat other women that way because that is what is accepted. That's an accepted behavior. That's an accepted response. And when things become accepted, when you challenge it or when you call it out, it's going to be very hard for people to sit in that discomfort. So instead of sitting in their discomfort, they're going to turn it and say, well, that didn't really happen. They gaslight you. Or they say something, you're causing trouble.
Yeah.
You're causing trouble. You're challenging the status quo, because it's much harder for people to admit that they've been allowing bad behavior than to say, you know what? We've been allowing bad behavior. We should change something. It is easier to say, oh, no. There's nothing wrong with this. Imagine if we allowed our children to act that way. Yeah. I mean, seriously, there'd be no consequences for anything in life. And we know that that's not acceptable. Being a woman in leadership, whether you're starting, at the very beginning or you've done so much, for decades, right?
Yeah.
Often means being questioned, being second guessed, being minimized. Again, like I said, before you've said anything.
Yeah.
It's a sad reality, but we have to operate in reality. If we're allowed to be in medicine, we haven't been centered to be in medicine.
Yeah.
We're operating from an infrastructure and a legacy that subscribes to a male archetype.
Yeah. And
then you have women who try to match that archetype, and they're also not welcome.
Yeah. Do you ever felt like there was like a personal barrier, like you felt like something was limiting you, like having a family, motherhood, and all those things, like by yourself? But because I often joke with my female colleagues, we could probably do all these things if we had wives at home, right? Like,
yeah.
Yeah.
It's so true. I say the same thing. Personally, I'm very, very blessed to have the husband that I have, the partner that I have.
Yeah.
If I said we're moving to Alaska tomorrow because I have a job and I want to do it, he would say, yes, no problem.
Yeah.
Let's do that. I want to be honest. I want to be honest. Yeah. Because I don't want people to think that, we don't experience this. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Having a family, going into roles, it's like the doubt that was there was not put there by me.
Yeah.
It was always put there by somebody else, but it sounds like yourself in your mind.
Yeah.
So it's harder to work with that, to work through it. And how I work through it is talking to my husband, talking to my family, talking to the people who I know have my back and have my best interests at heart. I never thought being a mother would limit me.
Yeah.
I will say that, especially since it was post-COVID and I had Zoom and I had WebEx and Teams, I was like, there's no way this is going to limit me, and, I was like, oh, if I have to go in and I have to take my child, so be it.
Yeah.
But I'm bold like that.
Yeah.
I'm extremely bold like that. So I always thought that when I became a mother, that was a superpower.
Yeah.
Because let's be honest, and I do this sometimes when I need to psych myself up. Fighters psych themselves up before a fight. My husband's a fighter. My husband is a multi-time world kumite champion.
Sure.
Extremely emotionally intelligent, understands like rules of engagement, war, the wubishi. So sometimes before going to meetings, I tell him, okay, like, I'm anticipating this challenge.
Yeah.
What would you do if this happened, or we'd actually practice it, which has helped me a lot. But if you ever watch like fighters or anyone going into any match, a soccer match, football, boxing, karate, it doesn't matter. You will lose before the match if you lose to yourself in your mind. Okay.
Yeah.
If you can get the other person to lose to themselves in their mind, you have won. You have won before you hit the tatami, before you hit the grid, before you hit anything.
Right.
So sometimes I think to myself, going off of, being a mom is a superpower, and dads are wonderful too. Don't get me wrong. There are superhero dads out there, but we're talking about women. So I want to center on women right now. I want all the dads out there to know that you're amazing. My husband's an amazing father.
Yeah.
He has the patience of a saint, let me tell you, when it comes to my daughter and me at the same time. But sometimes, like when I'm preparing and I know I have to go into a room of, let's say more non-friendlies, let's call them non-friendlies. Okay.
Yeah.
They're not enemies. Just non-friendlies, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes I think to myself, all right, I'm going to walk into this room. I know I belong here. It doesn't matter if they don't think I belong here. And when I look at what we've all done in life, I have not only carried and created and I've birthed life. I have created life.
Right.
Please let one man come and tell me what accomplishment he has done that will match or surpass that.
Right.
And I think that to myself, and some people may be listening and being like, "Are you serious?" Yeah, I am serious, because if you think about it, I am half a population that can do this.
Yeah,
they can't. You can't do what I can do.
Yeah.
So please tell me what you have done that can match me creating life.
Yeah,
and bringing it into this world.
Yeah, that's good.
It's sometimes you got to do that. You got to talk to yourself in a way that is uplifting and powerful. And we talk about talking to yourself with self-compassion. This is part of it. Some rooms are going to have more friendlies, and you don't have to do as much of that. But more often than not, when you look at who's running healthcare, right?
Yeah.
How are 18% of hospital CEOs women? When you think about it, even less are women of color, even less are physicians.
Yeah.
When you talk about in academia, since I'm an academic center now, who's getting leadership roles? Is it people who are just publishing a lot? And if you're publishing a lot, you may not have a lot of social responsibilities.
Yeah.
Right. Maybe to your point, maybe you have a wife at home who can take care of the children. Maybe you can go to a meeting late at night because you didn't have to think about what the childcare was going to be because somebody already thought of it for you.
Right.
I'm talking very much to the, stereotypical, heterosexual relationship. And
right.
we both know that gender roles are not as defined as they were, way back when.
Right.
My husband and I have a lot of switched gender roles and shared gender roles, which I believe creates magnificent young people.
Yeah.
Magnificent human beings.
Yeah.
But in medicine, you can't just say, well, we've included you.
Yeah.
You need to have transformation.
And did you feel like you were valued too? Like when you were making a point, like when you're speaking amongst a room of men, do you think your opinion is valued? So you got yourself a seat there, but is there value in what you're talking about?
It depends on who was in the room.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. And I want to give credit to all the people in the room who have always supported me.
Yeah.
And championed me.
Yeah.
Because that made a big difference. That's what allyship is, whether it be men or women. But since you asked about men, I've had great male colleagues tell me, I love what you're doing. I've never met a leader like you. Like, keep doing what you're doing, please.
Yeah.
And these were like quiet people. Like they were never going to speak up about anything. When I left my last position, I had quite a few mentors, I would say, in senior leadership who were men. They were white men.
Yeah.
And I learned so much from them. And I think why it worked is because they respected me.
Yeah.
And they showed me that they respected me. And, if I had a strong opinion about something, they didn't diminish it or write it off. They listened to me.
Yeah.
And a big part of being in a room is understanding who is in that room.
Yeah.
And if you could get people in the room with you who are there as well to support you, who are going to have your back, that's a better room to be in. Not all room is going to be, friendlies. And honestly, the goal is not being liked. Sometimes we think we have to be liked, and in doing so, we decrease our own credibility.
Yeah. And
you should never have to make yourself small in order to fit in. You should never have to lessen yourself.
Yeah.
So that others can feel comfortable.
Yeah.
Because in the long run, you only hurt yourself by doing that.
Yeah.
It's in a room of, and this actually happened. This actually was at the head of a table where I was speaking and being interrupted.
Yeah.
I was being interrupted. And other people were being interrupted. And as I've gotten older, since I'm 40 now, so since I was 30, I learned a lot. I learned a lot about sitting back, waiting for the right moment, thinking about what I want to say, and having passion, but kind of controlling how it comes out. Not because I don't want to make anybody uncomfortable, but I want to make sure that I'm clear. Yeah. Okay. But sometimes when you say something, you have to make people uncomfortable. Sometimes the only way to grow is in discomfort. Yeah. And leaning into that discomfort. Yeah. And that's very hard for anyone to accept that that's what it is, but it is what it is. Yeah. And sometimes we have to have tough conversations. Like sometimes we have to talk about misogyny. Sometimes we have to talk about racism in healthcare because it affects the people we serve. It affects our employees. It affects our medical staff. Yeah. And when you're the person to do it, sometimes it may not be well received. So I've learned to be a little bit more strategic. When I speak, sometimes I may have an idea. Yeah. But I'll ask somebody, hey, what do you think about this idea? Yeah. And they'll be like, oh man, I think that's great. Let's say I have an idea and I tell a white male colleague. Yeah. And then I'll say, can you present this idea? Huh. And they were like, why? I said, because I think it would be better received if it came out of your mouth.
Oh, gosh. That's sad,
I don't need the credit. Yeah, I don't need the credit. But sometimes to get the agenda going, and I have done that.
Oh, gosh.
Or I'll say, hey, I'm going to say this. Would you mind, showing your support of it verbally? Yeah. Because in a room, there's all these power dynamics, right? Yeah. And I really don't care about power dynamics, which I think is great for me because it makes me care less about about the drama. I'm like, I don't care. We're all here. We're all here just talking. We're all human beings. And I care about respect. Yeah. But we shouldn't just have respect for somebody because they have a title and a position higher than us. We should have respect for everyone from the janitor to the CEO. Right? For human beings. Right. And I think because I operate that way, when we're in a power dynamic and something is happening, and especially when it happens to me, I look to see what other people are going to do. Yeah. So example, I'm talking, my mouth is still open and I'm being cut off. Huh. And I'm running the meeting. Yeah. And I look around and I'm like, oh, okay. So no one's going to say anything. Right. And sometimes, that's happened where I didn't say anything. I just let the person go. But then there are times where somebody cuts me off or they cut somebody else off or they whatever the behavior is. You know, it's a aggressive, dysfunctional behavior, whatever that behavior is.
Yeah.
And I call it out. I say, oh, excuse me. You know, I don't mean to cut you off, but so-and-so was saying something. Can you please finish your point? You know, or I'd let them talk and then I'd wait for my moment to interject and say, oh, you know, Mr. or Dr. So-and-so, you know, I really like the point you made. You know what? Dr. Fatima, you had just said something like that the last meeting or just now. You had a really great idea. Can you tell us more about that?
Yeah.
That is allyship.
Yeah.
That is how you do it. When something happens in a room and people know it's wrong,
yeah,
they feel embarrassed that it happened. So it takes more effort to say, well, something embarrassing is happening. Should I say something? Should I not say something?
Sure.
If you think to yourself, should I say something? The answer is yes.
Yeah.
The answer is yes, every single time. It's having the courage to do it. Because oftentimes what goes through people's minds is, you know, it's a mob effect, right?
Yeah.
Something's happening in the street. Everyone knows it's wrong, but no one knows what to do because everyone's waiting for somebody else to step in and do something. Yeah. And you know, I blame my parents and my siblings, but I also blame one of my best friends from high school.
Yeah.
Her name is Veronique Monpoint. She's Haitian and Dominican. And when I was in high school, I always had a voice.
Yeah.
But this woman had an unapologetic voice that she used as her instrument.
Yeah.
And we were all in like honors and scholars classes together. We were all like really smart kids. But I'd watch her challenge teachers and I'd watch her stand up and I'd watch her just say things just with all her power and her might and not back down. And that left such an impression on me in high school that I went to college. Like, saying, I can do this too. And, you know, we're both Caribbean women, you know, and we're both encouraged to do this because at the end of the day, if you're a woman and you're in a room and that's happening to you, one, bring it up to your colleagues, right?
Yeah.
Bring it up. And you don't have to be any kind of emotional way about it. You know, hey, you know, when we're all talking and I get interrupted, it makes me, I'm being dismissed. It's unkind. You can use very simple words that we use with our toddlers. Okay. It's disrespectful. It's demeaning. Yeah. It's not how colleagues should behave. Right.
Yeah.
But we think if we do that, we're going to be seen as being extra, being emotional, when actually we're taking control back. You know, you have to tell people how to treat you. You have to train people on how to treat you. You're not a remote control.
Yeah.
They're not there pressing your buttons. You are a manual.
Yeah.
And you have to teach people. But before you teach somebody how to treat you, you have to know who you are. You have to know what you stand for. And a big part of me is, and how I lead, I have a very deep sense of ethics, morals, and integrity.
Yeah.
And my integrity is very much shown in my thoughts and my actions. And when I act against my moral center, I don't feel good. Yeah. So I don't want to feel like that. So if it's right, it's right. If it's wrong, it's wrong. And if you know, and there are nice ways to talk to people. I often will pull somebody aside to say, hey, I don't know if you realize, but you cut so-and-so off. You did it a few times. And oftentimes they'll be like, oh my gosh, I didn't even realize that. You give people an opportunity to be human, right? We all make mistakes. I love to talk. You know, I've had to learn how to listen. You know, as doctors, we think we're the best listeners in the world. We're the worst. We're the worst listeners, especially
I agree.
when we're in a room of right.
Yeah.
Especially where we're in a room with each other. We're all talking over each other.
Right.
We're all listening to respond, not listening to understand.
Mm-hmm.
And if somebody's bringing up something that I know is a topic that requires a lot of bravery for them to bring up, a topic that can be controversial.
Sure.
But I try to think, okay, well, they're bringing this up because they care about it.
Yeah.
And maybe I don't understand why they care about it, but maybe I should make it a point to try to understand why they care about it. Not because they're a woman, not because they're a man, not because they're a doctor or a CEO, not because they're an American, or not because they are a human being.
Right.
And all human beings are deserving of kindness and respect.
Yeah.
And compassion.
Yeah.
That's my expectation.
Yeah.
In a room, whether it be a small room or a big room.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it is a tightrope that we walk. It really is.
Yeah, no, you gave some very important points about, just allyship, and it can be for both men and women. And I think it will be very useful for our listeners. Just thinking about what do you think? I think we're almost towards the end of our time, but thinking about what institutions can do, to better support women in leadership positions, and also for young individuals who want to do leadership positions, who are women, what can they do, and how would you give them some words of encouragement?
Absolutely. So I know the word diversity has become this term that's taboo, right?
Yeah.
But diversity doesn't dilute excellence. It defines it. We're just talking about healthcare right now, but this can be applicable to anything.
Right.
Systems reward conformity.
Yeah.
They don't reward competence a lot of the time.
Yeah.
So one, you have to understand how your machine works, right? That you're operating in it. But you have to have hope that the more people that stand forward, the more power and strength we're going to have in numbers to change things for the better. We didn't have the Civil Rights Act get passed because people sat at home.
Yeah.
And I believe as physicians, we need to do a better job about showing up for each other, holding space, true space for each other.
Right.
We talk about mentorship. So what institutions can do. A lot of women who want to go into leadership positions, there's no path for them. And I know people are like, what do you mean? Of course there's a path. There is not. Nursing has a path. Nursing actually has a well-defined path for leadership. They have programs for people who are going into nursing leadership, even towards executive leadership, where they can help you with tuition costs, where they get you into programs, and they're doing all these things. It's beautifully done, actually. My hat's off to the nursing community. They're getting their MHAs, they're getting MBAs, they're all these other things. A lot of times, physicians in their early career, because we spent so much time in school, because we spent so much money, right? So a medical school education is extremely expensive, because when you come out, you're not making money, you're making residency pay, right?
Right.
So we don't have $70,000 to spend on a physician executive MBA. I'm sorry. I don't have $50,000 to spend on, I don't know, Master's of Healthcare Administration, whatever it is, or an academic leadership of excellence, or the clinician physician executive. I actually just found about all these terms in the past couple of years that even existed. But think about that. We don't know that these things exist, but other people in healthcare know that these things exist. Institutions have to, and I'm going to say it very honestly, because I'm honest, they have to decide, do you want the brochure photo or do you want real change? Right? Do you want tokenism or do you want transformation? Everyone says they want transformation. No one wants to change. And change doesn't mean that we have to change everything. Sometimes it's a cultural shift. Sometimes it's a mindset shift. Do you want to have a fixed mindset or do you want to have a growth mindset? Right. Because if we are going to excel in healthcare, then our leaders, just like our physicians and our nurses and all of our healthcare staff, but our leaders need to reflect the populations we serve. There's no way around it. So they have to first decide what if they want that or not. The big problem is a lot of these board of directors, when you look at global health around the world, there's, and they looked at, I think it was in 2020 or 2021, they looked at global health, and there was a big study that was done. And it said, if you increase women in leadership, there will be like a 20% increase in, global economy. I forget what it's called, but it was like an equity thing, right? And I thought it was really, really great what they said. So if institutions want women in leadership, they have to ask themselves if they really want that change, if they really want to truly include women, not just put them in a position with no power to change anything without any influence. Because if you do that, then they're just sitting there and they're just a face. a lot of these board of directors, when you look at the global health sector, 80% of the board are men, and they're older white men. So how can you look for something that you don't know you should look for? Because a lot of people in leadership look for people who remind them of themselves.
Yeah.
That they do, or they remind them of somebody
that's true.
Who they looked up to, who they wanted to be like.
Yeah.
You can't be what you can't see. So if it's only men, it's only white men, or if it's only white women, right? How am I ever going to think I can be that?
Right.
If I can't see it. So we have to think about what that looks like.
Yeah.
Addressing policies to pay, addressing, transparent promotion. A lot of times positions open up and before we know it, it's filled because the organization knows who they want in it, but that's not fair. What pathways exist, right? We talked about the nurses, they have a pipeline, right? And so we have a leaky, sometimes there's a leaky pipeline where someone with a woman who has all of the credentials, the credibility and everything gets passed over. So is it the issue with the pipeline or is it the issue with gatekeeping? Because I believe the latter, is a bigger issue.
Yeah.
Because why would you want to gatekeep talent?
Yeah.
Why wouldn't you want someone, regardless of their gender, who brings excellence to your organization to be in a position to influence culture and lead change?
Right.
When we talk about mentorship gaps, something I will tell everyone is your mentor does not need to be in medicine if you're in the medical field. Your mentor can be someone in any field.
Okay.
And I will tell you, I've learned more about leadership from my husband, who is a martial artist, who has no formal leadership training than I have anybody else because of the way he thinks.
Yeah.
And how inclusive he is and how he can meet somebody where they are. I learned so much, about that. We talked about allyship, who promote being allies. You see something wrong, speak up. In New York, you see something, say something. After 9/11, that was the whole campaign. If you see something, say something. Yeah. I grew up with that. I'm sorry, I can't let it go. If I see something, I'm going to say something. But true allyship is you're speaking up because something is wrong. You're not speaking up because you're gaining something from it. That's performative allyship. Yeah. I have a problem with performative allyship because it gives people the sense that they're safe when they're not.
Sure.
Creating psychological safety. Yeah. To talk about issues that affect people who are women, people with families. It shouldn't be seen as a weakness because you may have to be more flexible with someone. Because I always say, okay, well, if a man is called to duty, and I know women get called to duty and they need to be drafted, no one has a problem that they're gone. But if a woman has to take parental leave and she's gone for 12 weeks, which is not enough. Oh my gosh, United States, it's not enough. We have to look at that. If you're looking at hospital medicine, which is what I do, right? Yeah. There are more women in hospital medicine and it's increasing. Young women who may have families, may want to start families, what have you. How are you setting up the system for success where you're offering options for childcare? And that's for the men too.
Yeah.
We don't think about it's more than just, oh, I'm a woman and, people are treating me badly. No, that's not it. It's a whole system that has to, really take a deep look at itself.
Yeah.
To see. The other thing is sponsorship. So there's mentorship, there's allyship, and then there's sponsorship. And the simplest way I could talk about sponsorship is somebody's willing to say your name in a room in which you are not in. Someone is able to say, you know what, hold on a minute. I know someone who'd be great for this. And I do this for men and women all the time. When somebody's talking to me and I actually said it to you. You said you wanted to do a topic. And I said, I wouldn't be the best person for that, but I know so-and-so. He'd be amazing, for this topic. Why don't we just do that naturally?
Yeah.
It's something that has to come from the top down.
Yeah.
People talk about how many seats are at the table, right? And I want you to just picture this. There's a table. There's only so many seats.
Yeah.
Okay. People think, oh, well, if I invite this person who has all the qualifications, who has the credibility, who has the credentials, who's done the work 100 times over, 100 times harder.
Right.
They think by inviting that person to sit down, they lose something. And what they're focused on is losing their power and position. And that's not what we should be focusing on in 2025. If you're still looking at your leadership as power and position, which is command and control, you have lost every generation from millennials coming up because we don't respond to that.
Yeah.
It's not about power and position. Yeah. It's about influence. It's about innovation. It's about inspiration.
Yeah.
So the room has to understand that inviting people doesn't take anything from you. We're not enemies. If you're inviting people, they're adding something. They're adding value. They're adding excellence. We should be happy about that. And you know what? If the table's not big enough, my dad is going to build us a bigger table. My dad's a carpenter. He'll make us a bigger table.
Yeah.
And, some people say, oh, there's, it's a pie.
Yeah.
There's not enough slices of pie. Why does it always have to add up to 100?
Yeah.
And if there's not enough pie, my mom will make us more pies. It's not complicated.
Yeah.
And I think that's why I'm being so light and using those examples, because it's not complicated. When I look at a room, right? Let's talk about the boardroom, right? You talk about the boardroom. I want to change around the furniture.
Yeah.
I don't want anybody to leave, but let's just change around how we operate with each other. We should celebrate different leadership styles. We should have leadership programs that are visible to everyone, where it's not a secret about, how does it work? Highlighting, celebrating success of our leaders is wonderful, but oftentimes, like when I was in my leadership roles, the reason why I did women in medicine campaigns is because we weren't highlighting the successful work of our female physicians. Not because we weren't proud of it. It's just, it can very easily be missed. And when it's missed, you don't show people that, that they're valued, So that's from the institution.
Yeah.
For individuals.
Yeah.
I will say this. If you're a woman in medicine, okay, it doesn't matter where you are in medicine.
Yeah.
No one is going to save you.
Right.
You are the hero of your own story. You are the protagonist. Yes, you work hard.
Yeah.
You have, a nice balance of humility and ego.
Sure.
You try to have good social capital, good social relationships.
Right.
But don't ever make yourself small for other people. And why this is important is I talked about discomfort before, okay? People get very uncomfortable around certain topics.
Right.
What I would ask those people, if you're listening, if you're like, well, it's not my battle. It's not my fight. The fight for women is everyone's fight.
Yeah.
It's just like when they talk about work-life balance or work-life integration, I actually like that term better. That is not a woman's issue. That's a human issue. So I ask people if, something happens in a meeting or something happens in your group or in whatever professional or non-professional setting.
Sure.
You may not be like me where I'm very comfortable, hey, hold on a minute. Let's take a time out.
Yeah.
Let's talk about how we feel. Let's talk about, sometimes I say all feelings are accepted, all behaviors are not. I got that from a toddler, some toddler advice, but it's so true. Yeah. And so I tell people, you may not, feel comfortable saying anything, but what is your comfort costing somebody else?
Yeah.
Okay. Silence is not neutral.
Sure.
Silence oftentimes is the thing that hurts us most when we see our friends being silent. Like when somebody cut me off in a meeting and no one on my board said anything to support me, I felt so betrayed. I did, because I would have done it for them. But I also realized that there were a lot of powerful people in the room and no one wants to, quote, get in trouble. But I'm like, how can you get in trouble for doing the right thing?
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if you're CEO of the hospital system or, if you're, making deliveries. If you do something that's, not acceptable,
right,
then that's not okay. And I had a conversation with the person who cut me off. I did, and I was very kind. And I said exactly what I previously said. I said, I'm a human being deserving of kindness and respect. And when you did that, you disempowered me in front of my board. You demeaned me and you dehumanized me. And that was not okay. And if you want to take it a step further with people, say, would you want somebody to do this to your daughter?
Right.
To your sister? To your mother? It's very true, because when you align, just like with our patient, a human connection, they start seeing you as a human being.
Right.
Not just the other person, in the other seat, on the other side of the table.
Right.
I treat women the way I want people to treat my sisters.
Yeah.
I treat men the way I want people to treat my brother. So I want my family to be treated well and with respect. So why wouldn't I treat other people like that? And it's very easy to lose sight of people as full human beings. I bring a full lived experience, as does everybody else.
Right.
Imagine if we just came together and said, you know what? This is what we need to do so we can unify. Because the goal is unity. The goal is, there's going to be conflict.
Right.
And sometimes we can't resolve all conflict, but that's okay. Because not all conflict needs to be resolved as long as we can find peace.
Right.
To work together. Women need to seek out their own mentors and sponsors. They are not going to magically come to you. And honestly, the worst anybody can do is say no, right? And if they say no, they were not your person.
Yeah.
Negotiate and talk to people who are good at negotiation. I don't care if you talk to a crisis negotiator or a lawyer or something. Negotiate for salary, negotiate for leadership roles, negotiate for your authorship credit. If you see a role and you say, I think I'll be good for that, go to somebody and say, I think I would be really good for that.
Yeah.
How do you think I became chief of medicine? I honestly, I was like, can I do that? Because I think I'd be really good at that. And I met the criteria. Make sure you meet the criteria. Say yes strategically.
Yeah.
So saying no is a power. And I've learned to say no and set my professional boundaries. But say yes to things that bring you joy.
Yeah.
To committees and projects that you feel you're going to have an impact and influence. Because if you're just doing something just to do it, you're not going to shine because your heart's not in it.
Sure.
We talked about like leadership training programs. Ask your institutions, ask your groups, say, hey, I think I have a lot of good potential inside of me. I have a lot of passion, and I want to make things better in healthcare and for physicians and for nurses and for the C-suite. And can I get executive coaching?
Yeah.
I wish I had asked for that because one of my male colleagues was being offered it, but I wasn't.
Yeah.
And I was in a position much higher than him. And that's fine. That's okay. But, ask for those things. Hey, I think I want to pursue a physician executive MBA. Is there a way for me to get tuition assistance for it? We're not taught to ask for help. We're not taught to. We're taught to just, deal with it, bear it, be in the thick of it.
Yeah.
If you are a woman and you're in medicine and you're in leadership, if somebody tells you just have thick skin, flip them the bird. You already have thick skin. Okay. That is such a terrible thing to tell people.
Yeah.
You already have thick skin. You already have. You're already the lotus.
Yeah.
You've already blossomed. You've lived through adversity.
Yeah.
You don't need to continue to prove yourself to yourself.
Yeah.
You know who you are. I think that's so important. I have a very strong sense of who I am. So I have a very, very strong sense of who I am.
I love that.
And does it waver? Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. But I always know how to come back and say, okay, is what I'm thinking from me or is it from someone else? Don't take criticism from someone you wouldn't take advice from.
Okay.
That's important. And men as our allies, you're our colleagues. We went through training together. We call each other. We talk about clinical cases. We respect each other on a intellectual level. Why should it be any different when we're in leadership positions and in a boardroom or on, a system level executive team or whatever? Yeah. Men are our allies. And sometimes we look to you because we just want you to show that you're our allies. Advocate. Men can advocate for women in leadership.
Yeah.
Women to be on panels, to be on boards, to be part of publications. Yeah. They can, use their voice. And we didn't have parental leave when I was pregnant, but we got parental leave by the time I had my child.
Oh.
Because I advocated for it, because I never thought it was something that, we wouldn't have had, we just got to change the narrative. There's enough room for everybody. There's, enough seats at the table. And I will say this, sometimes the reason why we can't get her in a room is because we should not be in that room. So think about what room you want to be in. And it's full of toxic people, not men, not women, people. And it's full of people who have a fixed mindset, people who don't want to change, people who don't want to grow. Why do you want to be in that room?
Yeah.
Sponsor somebody, open a door. If you can't open a door, crack a window.
Yeah.
Advocate for policies at an institutional level and look around your own groups and your own departments and say, who's missing from leadership?
Yeah.
Because leaders come in every shape, size, color, gender, everything.
Yeah.
So if we can understand that this is not a women's issue, this is a quality issue, this is an equity issue, then we will realize that our progress happens with us. Yeah. And going forward, the future is brighter when women are in.
Yeah. That's thank you so much. I think you packed a lot of great information, and I think it will be really, really useful for our listeners. I think there's some really, really important points. Thank you so much for, doing this with us today.
Thank you for having me. My gosh.
It was amazing. I think everybody will enjoy listening to it. Before we wrap up today's conversation, usually I want to leave you with I usually do a poem, so I want to leave you with some words that capture the fierce, unapologetic strength of women who lead through all the challenges, biases, and expectations. It's a poem by Maya Angelou, and it reminds us that true leadership comes from owning who you are, not fitting into a mold. And it's called Phenomenal Woman. Pretty women wonder where my secret lies. I'm not cute or built to suit a fashion model's size. But when I start to tell them, they think I'm telling lies. I say it's in the reach of my arms, the span of my hips, the stride of my step, the curl of my lips. I'm a woman, phenomenal woman. That's me. I walk into a room just as cool as you please, and to a man, the fellows stand or fall down on their knees. Then they swarm around me, a hive of honeybees. I say it's in the fire in my eyes, and the flash of my teeth, the swing in my waist, and the joy in my feet. I'm a woman, phenomenal woman, that's me. Men themselves have wondered what they see in me. They try so much, but they can't touch my inner mystery. When I try to show them, they say they still can't see. I say it's in the arch of my back, the sun of my smile, the ride of my breasts, the grace of my style. I'm a woman, phenomenal woman, that's me. Now you understand just why my head's not bowed. I don't shout or jump about or have to talk real loud. When you see me passing, it ought to make you proud. I say it's in the click of my heels, the bend of my hair, the palm of my hand, the need for my care, 'cause I'm a woman, phenomenal woman, that's me. Thank you so much, Dr. Williams, for doing this with us today.
Thank you so much. Keep doing this work, please, because it's so impactful and so important. And yeah, thank you so much. This was so inspiring to even be here with you. You were giving the medical community and the greater community at large so much hope in this honesty and in this podcast that you're doing. So thank you for having me.
Yeah, I appreciate that, and likewise, thank you.